Refused to pay for my son's rehearsal dinner because I can't stand his fiancée's hostility towards my daughter-in-law, causing family turmoil. I'm the mother of 3 amazing sons, Luis, 32, Cyril, 27, and Jamie, 22. For the most part, I'm very close with all of them, as well as their significant others. But lately, I've found myself in a tricky and uncomfortable situation, and I'm trying to navigate it without making things worse. Luis, my oldest, is engaged to Jessa. I'll be honest, I don't quite click with her. We have very different political views, and while I do my best to respect boundaries, I always have a nagging sense that she's not being genuine with me, or with Jamie's wife, Lucy, especially. There's just something off about Jessa's friendliness. When no one's really listening, she has a way of making snide remarks or little digs at Lucy, who is one of the sweetest people I know. She never outright insults her, but there's a slyness to it, a subtlety that ate away at Lucy even before Lucy married Jamie last year. I'm fiercely protective of Lucy. She doesn't deserve that kind of treatment, especially since she's new to the family and has done nothing but try to fit in. The friction between Jessa and Lucy has been one of those quietly brewing storms, one that nobody talks about openly, but everyone can feel it in the air. Now Luis and Jessa are deep into wedding planning, and that's where the latest problem cropped up. Traditionally, the groom's family covers the rehearsal dinner, and Luis gently asked if my husband and I would be willing to pay. Of course, I want to support my son and show him how much we care, but a voice in the back of my mind keeps wondering, am I just enabling a situation where Jessa gets away with her sly hostility toward Lucy? I've thought over it for days, torn in all directions. My husband says we should just go along with it, keep the peace, not rock the boat. It's only one night, after all. He reminds me that Luis would notice and be hurt if we pulled out now. But then I look at Lucy, how tense she's become at every family event, how carefully she guards her words around Jessa, and I wonder, if I say yes to this, am I telling Lucy that her feelings don't matter as much as keeping up appearances? Every mother-in-law wants to be close with her kids and their partners, but I can't stand the idea that I'd be supporting someone who makes my daughter-in-law's life miserable, even in a subtle way. I'm at war with myself, trying to decide if saying no would make me a bad person, or if paying for that dinner is the real mistake. Update 1. I had invited my son Luis over for lunch to go over rehearsal dinner plans and discuss the final details for the wedding coming up. What I hoped would be a joyful, simple catch-up quickly turned heavy when the conversation suddenly shifted. Luis quickly became frustrated, venting about his brother Jamie. The words tumbled out of him, accusations and anger I hadn't seen coming. He told me Jamie had been completely unsupportive and, even worse, was acting controlling, especially around the wedding. I sat there stunned, absolutely blindsided. I had always thought of Luis and Jamie as the closest of siblings. Their bond was something I'd quietly treasured, believing nothing could shake it. Hearing Luis talk about his brother with so much resentment felt like a punch to the stomach. I could hardly process how severe things had gotten between them, right under my nose. Now, as the wedding inches closer, I feel pulled in 2 opposing directions. My husband keeps telling me it's not my business and that I should stay out of it, insisting Luis and Jamie will have to work it out on their own. But I can't help feeling responsible. How am I supposed to stand by and watch this unfold, pretending nothing is wrong, while this awful tension lingers, threatening to turn what should be a beautiful celebration into something painful? I'm left desperately trying to figure out my place in all of this, worried about saying or doing the wrong thing. The thought of the whole family gathering for such an important moment with these unspoken issues buzzing just beneath the surface makes me anxious, yet I still don't know whether to intervene or let things run their course. Update 2. Please be kind to me. I know I haven't been a perfect mother or mother-in-law. I understand these aren't my battles to fight, but it feels as if my family is falling apart right before my eyes. Last weekend, my son Jamie and his wife Lucy went out of town for a concert. My husband and I stayed home to watch Letty, our granddaughter, and really, we had a wonderful time with her, although Jamie and Lucy probably FaceTimed us every 2 hours all day Saturday. On Saturday evening, Luis and Jessa invited us out for dinner. I told them we could go somewhere if we were home by 8 so Letty could get to bed, or they could always come over, we could order takeout, and just hang out at our house. Honestly, I figured they wanted to discuss the rehearsal dinner. Strangely, I didn't hear back until after I got home from church, when Luis just texted, "We were thinking somewhere nicer, never mind." Odd, yes, but I brushed it off. Everyone got home that weekend safe and sound, but the next day, Luis and Jessa skipped our usual Sunday dinner. A few days later, I was at home with Lucy and Letty when Luis came over with Jessa to pick up a ring he needed. Usually, Luis has this adorable routine with Letty where he announces, "Ring ring," and Letty yells, "Hello," while running to him for hugs and kisses. This time, though, he completely ignored her. Letty ran up with her arms wide open and yelled, "Hello." But Luis just walked right past her. He got what he needed and left, leaving me appalled. I turned to Lucy and asked if we should tell Jamie. How could he be so cold to his own niece, his goddaughter, just because he was mad at her dad? Lucy just said we probably shouldn't say anything. But I couldn't shake off how wrong it felt. And then, yesterday, came the turning point. I was out grocery shopping, completely oblivious to what was brewing at home. While I was gone, Luis came by to drop something off to my husband, who was outside in the garage with Jamie and Letty. Something happened. There was an altercation between Jamie and Luis, and it quickly escalated into a physical fight. My husband said Luis instigated the physical side of it, but he couldn't give me more details since all he cared about in the moment was getting Letty inside and away from the chaos. By the time he got back outside, the immediate violence was over, but the two of them were still screaming at each other. My husband asked Luis to leave and sent Jamie downstairs to cool off. When I pressed for details, he couldn't even tell me what started the fight. Everything escalated so quickly, and he looked more shaken than I've seen him in years. I am still reeling, not knowing how we're supposed to move forward after all this, but I finally see it now. This really is Jamie and Luis's issue to resolve. I can't keep blaming myself, and I definitely can't fix it for them. My husband and I told Luis he was no longer welcome in our home, and, of course, he lashed out at us, accusing us of taking sides. I told him he attacked his own brother in front of a child. Jamie and Letty both deserve to live somewhere they feel safe. Complicating things even further, Luis works for my husband, who's within his rights to require a drug test now. And as for the wedding, God, I have no idea what to do. My husband thinks we should just give them the money we promised and be done with it. That idea breaks my heart, but maybe it's the only path left. Jamie keeps telling me we just need to get through the wedding, and maybe things will work themselves out, but I can't tell if he really believes that. I just feel so sick and helpless. I wish there was something I could do to pull my family back together. I'm trying to make plans to spend time with my middle son, Cyril. I feel bad he's in the middle of all of this tension and don't want him thinking I've forgotten about him. Update 3. I sat Jamie down, just the three of us, my husband, Jamie, and me, while Lucy was out working and Letty was already fast asleep. The tension in the room was stifling, and Jamie kept dancing around our questions, refusing to give us a straight answer. I lost my patience. I told him, look, you're living in my home, and now you're physically fighting your brother. If you can't tell me the truth about what's going on, your daughter can stay here, but you and Lucy will need to find somewhere else if you insist on keeping secrets like this. Jamie just got angrier, clammed up, and stormed off to bed after we exchanged a few more heated words. I looked at my husband and told him I meant every word. He just sighed, telling me he didn't know what else we could do, but luck was on our side, because the next morning, my son came to us ready to spill everything from his perspective. It all went back to the 4th of July. Our neighborhood tradition is fireworks, so Cyril, Rosa, Luis, and Jessa came over. We have space for everyone. Rosa's dog was at her parents' place, and maybe everyone got a little too comfortable. Drinks were flowing, and everyone just decided to spend the night. My husband and I went to bed early, leaving the younger crowd awake in the house. That's when Cyril and Lucy decided to take a walk and smoke a joint together. I don't necessarily condone it, but I'd never seen Lucy high. She's never been one to drink, but apparently, sometimes she smokes. So, at this point, only Luis was 100% sober, but he just had LASIK surgery and wasn't really all there either. That's where the chaos started. Jessa lost it when she found out about the pot. She started screaming at Lucy, insisting as a mandated reporter she was obligated to act because Jamie had been drinking and Lucy was endangering her child by smoking. She even brought up that kidnapped British child, just unloading on Lucy. Lucy broke down and went to bed, and Jamie faced off with Jessa. He told me the fight got seriously ugly from both sides. In the middle of it, Luis followed Jamie inside and tried to talk him down, begging him not to drop out of the wedding. Luis tried to smooth things over, promising Jessa wouldn't call CPS, but Jamie was done. He refused to be Luis' best man and didn't want Lucy or Letty to be alone with Jessa until she apologized. That was when all this talk started. Lucy shouldn't go to the wedding reception. She should save money for Letty, not anything selfish. Lucy was terrified of rocking the boat and was just going along with all this because she didn't want to make things worse. Jamie said he'd been trying to reassure her nothing bad was going to come from it, but she was shaken. I needed to know if Jamie himself thought there was a problem. How often was Lucy really getting high? He just laughed, told me it was maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and that he wasn't worried at all, especially not since the 4th. Weed is legal here, and I know Cyril smokes often, though only because he's over 21. Lucy was humiliated. She particularly didn't want me or my husband to know about this mess. I wanted as many perspectives as possible, so I talked to Cyril afterwards. His version? Identical to Jamie's, but he made it sound even worse. He and Rosa had stayed outside, arguing with Jessa. I always joke that I never forget my middle son because he's my drama-free king who never causes me headaches, and here he was grafting more sense into the situation. I asked him bluntly if he'd seen Letty neglected or if he thought Jamie and Lucy had a problem. His answer was a loud no. He thought Luis and Jessa were just looking to stir up trouble. After Jamie walked off, Jessa continued bashing Lucy, even saying she was inappropriate with Luis, just because in Luis' phone her name was next to a car emoji. For the record, it's an inside joke. Lucy used to give Luis rides before he got his license back. Jessa took it further, saying she didn't want me babysitting her kids if Letty was around, because Letty's parents had her young, and she thought that made her a bad influence on their kids. Cyril confided that both he and Rosa wanted out of the wedding drama, but Jamie begged them to stay to prevent even more chaos. Cyril even said he'd tried reason with Luis, but believes Luis is as much to blame as Jessa for going along with all of this. At this point, my heart just broke. I sat Luis down for his side. He dodged our questions, so I leveled with him. I explained that both of his brothers had told us everything, and I wanted his own account, yet he refused until he was sure I'd already heard Jamie and Cyril's sides. He didn't deny any of it. In fact, he assumed Jamie already told me. He suspected Jamie asked me to withhold wedding money if Lucy wasn't invited. That's what was fueling his anger. I asked him directly if he thought Letty was being neglected by her parents. After all, they live in my home, and if there was reason for concern over my granddaughter's safety, I needed to know. Luis didn't answer. He just accused me of caring only about Jamie and Letty, and that Jamie needed to realize he wasn't perfect. I pressed him, but he kept dodging. My husband asked outright if he could pass a drug test since Luis was ranting, getting heated, but refusing to actually address the heart of the matter. He started bringing up random things, including a particular, relaxed conversation Jessa was part of, which to this day I don't think was the core issue. Luis was clearly wounded by the whole interrogation, and my husband immediately wished he could take it back. Luis told us we should be drug testing Lucy, not him, and asked us to leave. But the next day, he sent us proof that he had taken a drug test at the lab we've always used, and he passed. Not long after, Luis handed in his resignation. He'd been working for my husband. He had accepted a job with a competitor. My husband was crushed, not just at losing his son in the business, but because it was clear Luis had been talking to the competition for some time. Offers like that don't come out of nowhere. Still, he paid out Luis notice, and that was that. With all this turmoil raging, my husband and I started debating what to do. We realized the boys needed to handle things themselves, and, if I'm honest, after hearing everyone's side, we started siding more with Jamie and Lucy, even if they'd made some mistakes, because it all seemed like an enormous overreaction from Jessa after months of her persistent rudeness toward them. We discussed therapy, a family meeting, anything that might fix this rift. But fate intervened. That Tuesday, with Letty and Lucy at home with me, a caseworker from Family Protective Services knocked on our door. Someone had made a report about our family. We were all interviewed, and the caseworker walked through the house, appraising everything. That moment was, undeniably, one of the most difficult days of my life. The house feels so different now. I don't know if we're going to get an official notice or anything, but when the caseworker left, she seemed kind. She assured us there was nothing to move forward on, but handed me some information about services for Lucy and Jamie. Still, I can see the trauma etched into Lucy and Jamie's faces, and, honestly, on mine as well. Since Tuesday, they haven't let Letty out of their sight, as if someone is going to swoop in and take her away. Even Letty knows something is off. She senses the sadness that hangs over us like a cloud. I had a long talk with Lucy. She kept anxiously promising me she only ever smoked occasionally on weekends, and absolutely never when Letty was awake. She even offered to take a drug test, over and over. I told her I believed her, I truly do. Even if I didn't, I tried to reassure her, no one is going to rip a happy, healthy, safe child out of her mother's arms, even if she did slip up. But I can tell my words don't really penetrate that deep, not with everything that's happened. Jamie was the one who finally confronted Luis that evening, only through text. He refuses to see him face to face. Jamie asked straight out if it was Luis or Jessa behind this, and Luis's response was it didn't matter. That was it for Jamie. He replied that Luis was dead to him and blocked his number. Now, Rosa has dropped out of the wedding entirely. Cyril, torn and heartbroken, is hanging on as best man but says he won't set foot at the reception or make a speech. He wanted to cut ties completely, but Luis talked him into at least standing by his side at the ceremony. I told Cyril he should do what feels right to him. He confessed he still wants to walk away, but he fears that one step could make everything spiral even further. He sounded so defeated, and his heartbreak was obvious. He even said, like he was bracing for the worst, there's still time for them to turn against me and try to ruin my life, so let's see how this goes. I recognize what he's doing, trying to protect Jamie, his little brother, by not being the next target, but anyone can see he's miserable. My husband and I are shattered over all of this. We sat Luis down and told him, as gently as we could, that although we will always love him, we simply cannot support him, or his marriage, after he and or Jessa wasted CPS resources just to get revenge on his brother. We told him he needed to come collect the rest of his things, important documents, childhood possessions he couldn't fit into his apartment, and told him to let us know exactly when, because Jamie and his family wouldn't be here when he did. Maybe we shouldn't have, but when he came to get his things, we confronted him again. Point blank, I asked if he truly believed his niece was ever in danger. He just said it didn't matter what he thought, that we'd always take Jamie's side. He insisted Jamie would get over it eventually, once everything blew over. I told him, no, this wound isn't going to heal, not now, maybe not ever. He might never see his brother or his niece again, and I think that's when it finally dawned on him just how serious this is. He tried to backtrack, telling us to pass on a message for Jamie to call him. I told him, repeatedly, that it wouldn't happen. That's when he got angry and desperate, lashing out and blaming us for the whole mess, saying we should have made Jamie figure his own life out, that we babied him. I remember yelling back that, if he'd had it his way, I'd still be doing his laundry and packing his lunch, not to forget he lived here longer than Jamie ever has or plans to. My husband and Luis started shouting at each other, everything unraveling fast. In the end, Luis stormed out yelling that he'd start his own family, that he didn't need us, and that everything was our fault. I was just done at that point, told him to leave if he was only going to throw around accusations without any real explanations. He didn't bring up the money, but I was ready to tell him I was saving it just in case we needed a lawyer to deal with the fallout from all this. It would be all too easy to blame Jessa. Sometimes, I can't help but see her hands in everything. But the truth is, my son is the problem. Whether it was him, or her with his knowledge, they crossed a line. What happened is unforgivable. I doubt he'll ever see his brother's family again. It will be a long while before I even want to see him, as much as it aches to admit. Despite everything, I know my heart still belongs to him. If I got a call tomorrow saying Luis needed a kidney, a lung, bone marrow, I'd rush straight to the hospital to give it to him. If he needed rehab, I'd go back to work, take night shifts, do whatever it took to help him. But I can't forgive him for this, not now, maybe not ever. And he hasn't even tried to apologize. Right now, my heart feels like it's caught the flu, aching, feverish, impossible to soothe. If he ever has children, it breaks me to know I might never know them, might never even meet them. I have never felt so irreparably sad. Update 4. I thought the worst was behind us. I really did. For 3 weeks after Luis collected his things, our house felt like it was slowly healing. Lucy was sleeping better, Letty was back to her bubbly self, and even Jamie seemed to be finding some peace. We'd started making tentative plans for Thanksgiving, just the 5 of us, quiet and simple. Then yesterday morning shattered everything all over again. I was folding laundry when my phone rang. Unknown number, but something made me answer. The voice on the other end was shaky, young, and absolutely desperate. Mrs. Martinez? This is Emma. I work with Luis at his new job. I'm so sorry to call you, but I didn't know who else to contact. My blood went cold. Had something happened to Luis? Despite everything, my mother's heart still lurched at the thought. He gave me your number as his emergency contact, she continued, but I'm not calling about work. I'm calling because I think you need to know what's been happening between Luis and your daughter-in-law Lucy. The laundry basket slipped from my hands. What are you talking about? Emma took a shaky breath. I've been seeing Luis for about 2 months now. We met at work, and he told me he was separated from his fiancée, that the engagement was basically over. But yesterday, I found text messages on his phone between him and Lucy. Mrs. Martinez, they've been having an affair. The room started spinning. I sank into the nearest chair, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles went white. That's impossible, I whispered. Lucy would never. The messages go back months, Emma interrupted, her voice cracking. Before all this family drama started. Before the 4th of July incident. He's been telling her he's going to leave Jessa, that they can be together once everything settles down. And she's been encouraging it. I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be real. Sweet Lucy, who'd been so traumatized by the CPS visit, who'd been clinging to Jamie and Letty like her world was falling apart, she'd been betraying them all along. I confronted Luis about it this morning, Emma continued. He didn't deny it. He just got angry and said I didn't understand the situation. That's when I realized. Mrs. Martinez, I think this whole thing with his brother might have been planned. To break up Jamie and Lucy so Luis could have her. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Do you have proof? I took pictures of some of the messages before he caught me. I can send them to you if you want, but I thought you should hear it from me first. I'm so sorry. I know this must be devastating. After I hung up, I just sat there in the silence of my living room, trying to process what I'd just learned. Everything, every single thing, suddenly looked different. Lucy's nervousness around the wedding, her reluctance to make waves, even her eagerness to smooth things over with Luis and Jessa. Had it all been guilt? And Jamie? God, poor Jamie. Fighting for his wife, defending her honor, losing his brother over her, while she was betraying him, the entire time. I heard the front door open. Jamie's voice called out, "Mom? We're back from the store." Lucy's laugh followed, light and carefree, as Letty's little feet pattered across the hardwood floor. I looked at the photos Emma had just sent to my phone. Screenshot after screenshot of text messages that made my stomach turn. Luis telling Lucy he was done pretending with Jessa. Lucy responding that she couldn't wait to be with him openly. Messages about meeting up when Jamie was at work. Plans for a future together. The timestamp on the most recent message made me feel sick. Yesterday afternoon, just hours after Luis had stormed out of our house claiming we'd destroyed his family. Lucy loves her Luis more than her husband realizes, one message read. Soon she won't have to choose anymore. I stared at my phone, my heart breaking all over again, but this time for an entirely different son. How was I supposed to tell Jamie that the woman he'd sacrificed everything for had been planning to leave him all along? Update 5. I spent the entire night staring at those screenshots, my mind racing between disbelief and rage. By morning, I'd made my decision. I had to tell Jamie. But as I sat at the kitchen table, watching him make Letty's breakfast while Lucy got ready for work, humming softly to herself, I couldn't find the words. How do you destroy someone's entire world over scrambled eggs? Lucy kissed Jamie goodbye, ruffled Letty's hair, and headed out the door like it was any other Tuesday. The normalcy of it all made me feel sick. I waited until Letty was absorbed in her cartoons, then asked Jamie to step outside with me. "I need to show you something," I said, my voice barely steady. "But I need you to promise me you'll stay calm. For Letty's sake." The color drained from his face as I handed him my phone. I watched him read through the messages, his expression shifting from confusion to devastation to something I'd never seen before, pure, cold fury. When he finally looked up, his eyes were completely empty. "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. "Since yesterday. A woman Louise has been seeing called me. She found the messages and thought I should know." Jamie was silent for a long moment, staring at the ground. Then he laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that made my chest ache. "All of it, every single fight, every argument, every time I defended her. She was planning to leave me anyway." "Jamie, no." He held up his hand. Don't try to make this better. I need to think." He went inside and got Letty ready for daycare, moving like a robot. I offered to take her, but he shook his head. "I need something normal right now," he said. "I'll be back in an hour." While he was gone, I called my husband at work. He listened in stunned silence as I explained everything, then simply said, "Jesus Christ. That poor boy." When Jamie returned, he was carrying 2 large duffel bags. "I packed some things for me and Letty," he said. "We're leaving." "Where will you go?" Cyril said we could stay with him and Rosa for a while. "Just until I figure things out." He paused at the bottom of the stairs. "Don't tell her where we went. And Mom? When she gets home and realizes we're gone. Don't let her spin this. Don't let her make herself the victim." I nodded, though my heart was breaking for all of them, even Lucy, despite everything. Lucy came home at 5:30 p.m. to an empty house. Well, not entirely empty. I was waiting in the living room. She called out cheerfully, "Jamie? Letty? Where is everyone?" "They're gone," I said simply. She appeared in the doorway, still smiling. "Gone where? Did they go to the park?" "They left, Lucy. Permanently. They're not coming back." The smile faded. "What are you talking about?" I set my phone on the coffee table, the screenshot still open. "Someone thought I should know about your relationship with Louise. She was very thorough." Lucy went completely white. She sank into the nearest chair, staring at the phone like it was a snake. For a moment, I thought she might deny it, but instead she just started crying. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered. It started so innocent. Louise was helping me with some legal stuff after Letty was born, and we just connected. But I never meant for anyone to get hurt." "Innocent?" I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice. "Lucy, you've been planning to leave your husband for months. You let him fight his own brother to defend you, knowing the entire time that you were betraying him. I know how it looks, but you don't understand, then explain it to me, because right now, all I understand is that my son lost his brother, his job, and his entire family trying to protect a woman who was planning to abandon him anyway." Lucy was sobbing now, mascara streaming down her face. "Louise said he was going to leave Jessa after the wedding. That we could be together without all this drama. I thought if we could just get through the wedding, everything would work out." "And what about Letty? What about your daughter?" "Louise loves Letty. He was going to help me get custody?" "Custody?" I stood up, my anger finally boiling over. "Lucy, you live in my house. Jamie has been the primary caretaker while you work. What judge is going to give you full custody over the father who's been home with her every day?" She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "Where did they go?" "Please, I need to talk to Jamie. I need to explain." "There's nothing to explain, and I wouldn't tell you even if I knew." Lucy's phone started buzzing. She grabbed it desperately, but I could see from her face it wasn't who she hoped. "It's Louise," she said, almost surprised. "Answer it," I said. "Put it on speaker. I want to hear what he has to say now that his plan has fallen apart." Her hands were shaking as she accepted the call. Louise's voice filled the room, tight with panic. "Lucy, we have a problem. Emma quit her job today and sent our messages to HR. They're launching an investigation because of the company's policy about relationships between employees and..." Lucy interrupted, her voice breaking. "Jamie knows. He found out about us. He took Letty and left." There was a long silence. Then, "Shit. How much does he know?" "Everything. His mom has screenshots of our texts." Another pause. Okay, we can handle this. This might actually be better. Now we don't have to wait for the wedding to be together. I'll break up with Jessa tonight, and you can file for divorce. We'll figure out the custody thing." I grabbed the phone from Lucy's hands. "Hello, Louise. Mom?" His voice was small, like a child caught stealing. "Yes, it's me. And I want you to listen very carefully. Your brother is gone. Your niece is gone. And if you think I'm going to stand by and watch you destroy what's left of this family by helping your girlfriend steal his child, you're even more delusional than I thought." "Mom, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You've been planning this for months. The affair, the wedding drama, probably even the CPS call, it was all to break them up so you could have Lucy. That's not, the CPS thing was Jess's idea, I swear. I tried to stop her. Stop lying. I screamed, months of hurt and frustration finally exploding. Just stop. You've torn this family apart for a woman who was married to your brother. The line went quiet. When Luis spoke again, his voice was different, harder. Fine. You want to choose Jamie? Choose him. But don't come crying to me when you realize he's not the saint you think he is. He hung up, and Lucy and I stared at each other in the sudden silence. She looked broken, mascara streaked and hollow-eyed. I should go pack, she said quietly. Yes, you should. As she headed upstairs, I sank back into my chair, emotionally drained. My phone buzzed with a text from Cyril. Jamie and Letty are safe. Rosa's making dinner. We'll take good care of them. I typed back, thank you. I'll explain everything later. Then I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the wreckage of my family, and wondered how everything had gone so spectacularly wrong. In the space of 4 months, I'd lost 2 sons and gained a granddaughter who might never trust me again once she's old enough to understand what happened. The house felt enormous and empty. For the first time in years, it was just my husband and me again, but somehow, it felt like we'd lost everything that mattered.